The gate was screaming again, metal grinding on metal like it was begging to be rescued. I heard it every morning when Mrs. Dawson left for work and every evening when she returned. Today, though, the screech came followed by her voice. "Hey, Daniel. You got a minute?" I looked up from my porch. There she was, my elderly neighbor with her wild gray curls and the warmest smile in the neighborhood. She was carrying a grocery bag with one hand and wrestling the broken gate latch with the other. "It's gotten worse," I said. "That's why I need a hero," she winked. "Come save an old lady." I laughed, grabbed my toolbox, and jogged over. Helping her was never a chore. She'd lived alone since her husband passed, and even though we weren't related, she treated me like family. The hooked moment. The gate hinge was hanging on by a single rusted screw, a miracle it hadn't fallen off already. "You use this gate every day," I said, shaking my head. "I know. But every time I hear it screech, I tell myself, if it holds one more day, I'll fix it tomorrow." Tomorrow finally came. She smiled softly. "Sometimes we need a push, or a neighbor who listens." I tightened bolts, replaced screws, and sanded rust. As I worked, she chatted about her day, her garden, and how the neighborhood didn't feel the same since her husband died. Her voice cracked once or twice, but she always covered it with humor. Within 30 minutes, the gate swung open silently, smooth as butter. She gasped. "It hasn't sounded that quiet since the 90s. The reward whisked. I started packing my tools, but she held up a hand. "Wait," she said. "You deserve a little extra reward." I froze. The sentence sounded like something straight out of a story that could go very awkwardly. But she reached into her grocery bag and pulled out a small bakery box with a ribbon tied around it. "Cinnamon rolls," she said. "From the shop you mentioned last week." I remembered. I blinked. "You didn't have to." "I did," she insisted. "Because people like you, Daniel, you remind me that kindness still exists. And kindness deserves to be fed." We both laughed, but then she added quietly. "I haven't had anyone fix something for me without expecting something back in a long, long time." That settled in my chest like a weight. The unexpected moment of realization. As we stood at the now silent gate, she sighed. "You know, when my husband was alive, he fixed everything. Gates, faucets, my bad days," she said softly. "When he died, the house didn't just get quiet. I did." I swallowed. "I know what lonely feels like too," I said. "More than I let people see." She looked at me with those gentle, knowing eyes that only older people seem to have. "Well," she said, patting my arm, "maybe loneliness is just a reminder we're meant to reach out more." That hit me harder than I expected. The emotional climax. Before I left, she asked if I could stay a few minutes for tea. I agreed. She set out old floral cups, and we sat at her little wooden table, two people from two different generations, sharing cinnamon rolls like old friends. As she talked, about her memories, her heartbreak, her laughter, I realized something. The gate I fixed wasn't the real thing broken. She wasn't asking for help with metal or screws. She was asking for connection. And without even realizing it, I had needed the same. When I was leaving, she hugged me tightly. "You didn't just fix my gate," she whispered. "You opened it again." My throat tightened. The uplifting ending. A few days later, we built a routine. Morning coffee on her porch. Evening check-ins. Sometimes she cooked dinner, sometimes I brought takeout. Neighbors noticed. Someone even said, "It's nice seeing life in her house again." But what they didn't realize was that she brought life back into mine too. A simple act of kindness, a broken gate, a toolbox, a moment of connection, turned two lonely homes into two people who finally didn't feel alone. And the truth settled in my heart like warm sunlight. Sometimes the smallest repair leads to the biggest healing. Sometimes the reward isn't what you're given. It's who you gain.